All right. Welcome, everybody. We are here for our second episode of Blueprints for Business, sponsored by Forwardly. Jane, thank you so much for helping bring all of these sessions together for us. Do you mind taking a quick moment explaining to everybody what Forwardly is and yeah, tell us about Forwardly, please, real quick.
Sure. So I think I've seen many of you before all around. Forwardly is nice to see you again. Forwardly is an instant payments platform. So basically what we're trying to do is make your AR and AP faster and more consistent and just smooth things out for you. So we do instant payments and free same-day ACH for US businesses. We automatically reconcile with both QuickBooks Online and Xero. So yeah, very happy to talk with anyone if anybody's interested or looking to make some changes post-tax season.
Awesome.
And Shane, you missed the one big thing that I always love to say about Forwardly, 22-second payments.
Yes, 22 seconds or it's free is our thing, because either it goes through in 22 seconds or if the bank receiving the funds doesn't support that instant payment, we process it as a same-day ACH for free, and then we don't charge you. So when you do receive an instant payment, it's 1% capped at $10. So we're trying to make it really economical and even cheaper than paying to receive a same-day payment with another service. So yeah, really trying to focus on keeping it approachable and cheap. So that's it. But
Inexpensive, never cheap.
yes. Economical.
There you go. There you go.
Yes, exactly.
Affordable.
Affordable is a good one too. Yes.
So as we get started,
Attractively priced.
Exactly.
All the adjectives.
so as we get started, the Blueprints for Business, basically the concept of this whole series is there are obviously kind of like when you're building a house, there's a certain kind of a structure that you'll have to make sure you can build a house and it stays stable, so forth. Well, there's certain blueprints for business, like better practices that will help you to be more successful. And each of our different episodes, our goal is to open up dialogue with everybody that's here to talk about different aspects of it and just kind of get feedback from everybody else. What's working well, what's not, what are your thoughts and everything? And Richard, this episode, we're focusing primarily on, as we were kind of saying, like the good, the bad, and the ugly of, communications.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? And who has some wins this? Some of us are still in tax season, our friends up north, but others we're out of our first round. Who's got some stories to share from this last tax season?
Oh, now that's a dangerous question. I'm going to say we talked about all the tax season stressors in Tax Dirty to me this week, and it was like the floodgates opened. Everybody had a story. Everybody had a story. It was fascinating to hear all of it. Everything from just, last minute, it's the 14th. Can you get my tax return done by the 15th? To everything that you can imagine. But folks in the room, what are some of your stories? Anybody? Nobody. Janice.
I was so relieved last week when I finished my own taxes. And then I had a girls' weekend planned. I went away Friday, Saturday, Sunday for a scrapbooking weekend. And I had a client call me on Wednesday and ask me, who actually I hadn't really worked with her for the past year because she wanted to do it on her own. But something wasn't right in her books and she wanted me to clean them up for 23. And I go into her checking account and I find all of her deposits were duplicated because she was accepting them from the bank feed under the income account and they were not matching, or they were the bill payments. I'm sorry, bill payments, and they weren't matching. The bill payments were paid on her credit card. And so there was duplicates for everything and I had to clean it up. But not only that, there had to have been 100 transactions that didn't match at all. They were bill payments that were just there, and I was on the phone with her at a computer. Oh my God, the hotel that we were away on the scrapbooking weekend, right? I should have told her no, but I was trying to help her to try and win the business back. And she tells me that, she's going back and forth trying to tell me, but the internet was this new frontier. There was no internet. They had no computers there. And I'm working on my iPad. And it was like the most ridiculous thing all weekend. Needless to say, I did not get any scrapbooking done. I was on the phone and back and forth with this client all weekend long until Sunday. I mean, like, it was just ridiculous. I was just
I'm sure that kind of brings attention to one of the biggest areas of client communications is remembering to set the boundaries, right? And I know we've all talked about this in different, groups before, but setting the boundaries, that was for me in the past, it was a big thing, and really just knowing what times to like shut down, or even suggesting what areas of how people should communicate. So who else?
And I absolutely agree, because here I was away for the weekend. I left my husband with my granddaughter.
Mhm.
It was my weekend, and I gave up my own time to help a client who wasn't even really my client anymore. She reached out to me that last week of the year, of the season. And I'm like, but
yeah,
that's just who I am. I never want to really turn anybody away. And I wanted to help her. I tried to get her to be able to do it herself, but they just don't get it.
well, hopefully next year, right, you'll remember that and take your scrapbooking time. So real quickly, you want to see who else has a interesting story of that kind of nature to share. Any positive ones or any funny ones? I mean, that was a good funny one, but
positive ones. I have a couple positive ones. I've already amicably disengaged with 2 clients during tax season. Like, it just became more and more apparent. Like, these folks they're not problem clients, but they are not a fit for the practice I want to run. And so I was just able to have the healthy conversations of, I think maybe we should find you another preparer for next tax season. Like, let's finish this year out. And both of them received that well. And one does not want to learn any tech. Like, they live in the boonies. Their internet isn't good enough to upload to a portal. Like, they can't maintain an internet connection consistently enough. So, like, it's a refusal to want to learn plus an inability to use it. And so yeah, they're gonna hand them off to someone who wants to do in-person appointments. And then another one who just kept having scope creep. She'd always pay for my services, but it just felt too tense, of like, every time I needed to pitch her with a bill of like, hey, that's beyond what we were planning to talk about. And all these out there cockamamie things that she wants to do, like, it's totally fine and legit things, but it's like, this takes a ton of my research time, and I don't think I want to spend my time this way, even if I am being paid for it.
And the lesson there is boundaries, and you're setting them, and that's perfect. It always, I think we've all learned the lessons. When we step outside of our boundaries, what happens? We screw up something else because of it. It takes time away from the others that really fit the bill with your company. So,
and my wife was so happy to hear that I'm actually letting clients go rather than just bringing new clients in. It's like,
it goes against the grain to say I'm terminating clients, but it's a wonderful feeling, and it does go downstream to the families, to everybody, and makes for a better all around experience. Good for you, Carl. Good for you. Is this the first year that you've let people go?
No, it's not the first year I've let people go, but this was the first time I've ever done it proactively during, like, the return isn't done, and I'm not like doing it after the fact, making sure I got paid and hoping they don't do a chargeback. It was just like, it was able to be a lot healthier of just like, I think we're already pretty deep in it. Yeah. And I had plenty of failures too. But those were the wins on boundaries.
Very nice. Matthew, we've got some hands raised. Why don't we go to Donna, then Tanya, then Alea?
Perfect.
Sure. Okay, so I don't really do taxes, but I hand them off to the CPA. So because we know the deadlines already, I work with that and I start prepping my clients that we're going to have their taxes ready to go to the CPA by February 15th. My taxes are
We
already
love
at the
you.
CPA. Yep. And we make that deadline.
Right?
So in October, I'm already talking to my clients about. Now, by the way, this is all I can only do what's in my control. So I get whatever's in my control and hand it over to the CPA. I have clients that are on extensions because they didn't do their part. But that's not my fault, and I don't worry about it. It's my control. Everything's there by the 15th of February. Mine's already done before then. As soon as they can file it, my accountant takes care of that. I got my return on April 15th. For some reason, and I hate getting refunds. I want to get net zero. I don't want a refund. I might even want to pay a little, but I don't want the government holding my money either. So I actually ended up getting a really large refund because of just stuff from last year that didn't go well. But anyway, so the same thing. I tell my clients, we all know the deadlines. You know the deadlines. I know the deadlines. They're out there in the world. Everybody knows them. Let's make the deadlines. And now if we have to extend because you, for some reason, can't make your deadline because someone else didn't make their deadline, then we have to do that. But for the most part, everyone made their deadlines. And I start that client conversation early.
There was a trend this year that I heard a lot in our tax group where it was just almost an elevated scenario where everybody was screaming, we've got to get filed, no extensions, no extensions, no extensions. It always blows my mind because extensions, quite frankly, are going to get you
Not always.
better quality work because everybody is stressed and working furiously to get everything done by the deadline. You extend and that stress goes away and there's more prep time and more ability to do those things correctly. So it always blows my mind. Tanya Hiltz, you're a special guest today. Why don't you take just a minute or so, tell us who you are, and then we'll talk about why you raised your hand.
Perfect. Thank you. So I am Tanya Hiltz. I am CPA certified professional bookkeeper. Lots of designations, lots of accolades. I know.
Firm of the Future winner.
Yeah.
Say that.
2018 finally is reigning. Well, we broke the contest. They're like those damn Canadians, no more. Into it, Firm of the Future. Winner, absolutely. One of Woodard's top 50 CAS accounting firms. And top 100 pro advisor for 8 years in a row, I think now.
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thank you. And I've known Matt for many years. Richard is my friend, my coach. Of course, Matt is my friend as well and colleague. And I know many of you that are live on the call today. So thank you. My background, actually, it's funny where I come from. And this is kind of why I've raised the hand, is to talk a little bit. So I don't do a lot of taxes anymore, thankfully. Up here in Canada, we don't have there's no such thing as extensions. You've got your deadline, you've got to do it. However, if you're a corporation, you can pick a fiscal year versus a calendar year, but the individuals are all due at the same time, which most of them is April 30th. Unless you're a sole prop, it's June 15th, but you have to have it paid by April 30th. So there's really no point in going after that because you've got to know what you've got to pay. Otherwise, you're hit with penalties. So I started tax. I started doing tax in 1997. I sold the tax side of my business the year before COVID and was never happier that I did it, especially with the timing. But what I used to do, just at the very end, I did 600 personal tax returns alone myself, on top of juggling everything else that I did. There was the year before I walked out, there was about that I did 72 hours straight. Otherwise, I hit 2 bouts a year of about 48 hours straight. I was on autopilot. There really truly is a thing called autopilot and muscle memory. And thankfully, out of the returns, like I sat there after I got my sleep and I'm looking at it going, I didn't do these. I didn't do these. These are people I'd known for 20 years. I didn't do these. Well, sure enough, I did. And I'm not perfect. I have one that I make errors on and invert something every year. That year, I still only had one. So I was proud of that. But what happened is as I started getting busier and opening up to the bookkeeping and all this other stuff, what was happening is the boundaries that I put for my clients at the beginning, that, hey, I'm working with my, in the evenings and weekends when my daughter's, with my husband or sleeping or whatever, so I can be with her during the day and all this fun stuff really came and bit me. I also then tried to, when I had very few clients, I was like, great, when I get them dropped off, I can get them dropped off and get through them very quickly to the point where most people had their personal taxes done within 24 hours. That became the expectation, and really put a lot on me when I started bringing things out. So I think this is kind of where Matt's like, you need to come on and you need to do this, because Matt just went through boot camp, and that process that I'm going to talk about, that is probably kind of why he's like, Tanya, come in and talk about this. So I spent 1 year where it was March break up here, and our March break is, same like you guys. I think you guys have the February break. It's the week when everybody's kids are off. Everybody's trying to get everything done. And I literally spent all week long, people dropping off in my mailbox or in my, Dropbox, whatever, calling me 10 minutes later going, did you get it? Did you get it? And I'm like, it's up there. Or is my return done? I'm like, no, you just dropped it off. I've been busy. So I literally spent 8+ hours simply returning phone calls, telling people it wasn't ready yet. And I hadn't walked up to the mailbox yet. And I'm like, I am done with this. And this is probably back about 8 years ago. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to institute a tracking system. So I instituted a tracking system, and it did take 1 tax year for people to get used to it. And essentially it was like, I'm like Purelator, FedEx. You can track where your package is. Why can't we track where the taxes are? And then there's a priority fee. And so if somebody wants a priority, they're going to pay, $35 extra, which might not sound like a lot, but again, if your return is only $100, 35, it's a decent, like a big percentage for a basic return. So you can do that extra, pay for it first off. Here's an upsell, and we'll have it to you sooner. I'll give you a 3-day turnaround time. Otherwise, it's 2-week turnaround time. And what happens when the taxes come in, they will then get an email from us when we log it in saying, great, thank you, we've received your taxes. We'll reach out if there's any questions. If there's any questions when the person or me goes through it, then I reach out with the questions. If not, we reach out and say, okay, now it's ready for Tanya to work on. She'll be getting to it sometime within the next week or so.
So
what
I'm hearing is you've got a full procedure basically set up, which is how you're structuring and kind of managing some of the stuff.
Exactly. And templated system so that we just hit a button. And
do you mind, real quickly, if you don't mind, because I want to hear more about some of the systems that you have, but I want to also, because we've got some hands.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's circle around and we'll come back and get a little bit more about how your system works.
Absolutely.
Well. So, Jennifer, you had a story that you wanted to share with us also.
Jen.
And while she's doing that, actually, real quickly, I'm going to share. Steven was putting in the chat. He said, I love getting the clients K1s from a national tour on the 16th and 18 states showing income. Too late to file any extensions if necessary. It's taken me a long time reviewing. So I'm glad I didn't get them before the 15th and spend all that time. Yeah, I mean, that's the key thing. So raise a hands here. How many people, we've already heard a couple of people say they did, have knowingly taken something too late in the season, hoping they could still help and do it? So who's not going to do it next year? I'm going to say I'm not going
to raise their hand right then and there.
Yeah. Perfect. So, Jennifer, to back over to you real quick here.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had Zoom hiding behind like 4 windows, and I had to go figure out where it was. So in my season, we started super late because we implemented SurePrep into our software suite. And by the time we had all of our training done and were able to get it started, it wasn't until the end of the first week of February. That is really, 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 really late for us. And on top of that, we were using Ignition to send out engagement letters. Those went out late. So just everything got kicked by several weeks. We also were down a staff person. I already have an offshore partner that I work with, but they were starting late because we were starting late. There were changes that I needed to instruct them on the changes we had made so that they were on board with what had happened. And the reviewer that I thought was going to start with us at the end of February said, oh, I can't start now until the end of March because she was out of the country and had really bad Wi-Fi. And then when she did come back, she found out within about 2 weeks that she needed to go on a medical leave. And so, yeah. And so it just kind of the whole cycle just tumbled from there. It was terrible. I brought on some new clients that were specifically in my niche that I did not want to say no to because I didn't want the referral sources to think that I've been sitting here preaching, this is what I want, this is what I want, and they're sending it to me and I didn't want to say no. And they were really good clients. So I just said, yeah, knowing full well that that would fall on me because my 2 staff preparers would not have capacity to handle that. They're, deaths and trusts and splittings and all this kind of stuff. Well, comes down to the wire. I was able to get a couple of those done and extended, but the other ones suffered. So I basically just did the thing we hate to do, blanket extensions. Whatever stuff was in the returns got reported as tax liabilities. If there was nothing on the return, it was a 0 extension. And I hate doing that. But I didn't want to not extend I have a whole list here of like 3 pages that aren't all mine, but that got basically just got last minute extensions from like 9 o'clock till 11:45 p.m. I was filing extensions. That's all I was doing.
How did you communicate that to everybody?
Some of them knew because
maintain sanity.
It was insanity. A lot of them don't know. Some of them do. Some of them do because I actually knew what payments they had to make. So I was able to communicate with them and either help them make the payment or advise them on how to make the online payment. We were making a lot of payments for clients this year, which I don't love doing. There's always a mistake that happens, always. And we did have one error that went out. So we'll have a couple of things to pay for back end. And now, and if I have tax due clients based on the ones that we weren't able to get information into just for extension purposes, I'm obviously going to offer to pick up penalties on that too. It just reduces my income on the other side. But was it worth it? No, it wasn't. What am I going to do about that in the future? Richard, we've already talked about this, but there's going to be a lot of clients I'm going to have to rehome. As Carl said, it's like we're going to have to find you another preparer for next year.
I call it graduating.
You call it what?
Graduating.
Oh, graduating.
You're graduating from you to somebody else.
And sometimes you're graduating away from them. So it just depends on the perspective of it, right? So one question I wanted to ask, but before we actually dive into it, I want to go to Leah first is after that, I'm interested to know, since we have the mixture of bookkeepers and accountants and tax professionals here, how many are communicating back and forth? So if you're not doing the taxes, do you actually follow up post-season with the tax professionals and find out what went good and bad and so forth? But first, Leah, share, what you want to share. And then also if you want to add to that, it's all you.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. Just quick, Janice, I had 2 of those DIY clients with these things. Both went on extensions. One is on a subscription now. Returns are already filed, even though one had to be amended. And the other one I take on next week. And extensions, I actually pushed to get all the returns in if I possibly could, because Colorado has certain credits which they only pay out refundable credits if you file on the extension date.
Oh, okay.
I had so many last year where people got letters where they didn't get the $800 because they were extended. So I was really pushing for that as good as I could. And so that's that. And then kudos to CPA Pilot. That was my favorite toy during tax season.
Oh,
It
wonderful.
saved me so much time. Not because I researched, it was like clients had a question, I put it in there, read over it, it was correct, and I sent it to them, and I didn't have to type anything up. And so that was really great. There were two things that I experienced during the last few days well, one during tax season and one yesterday, and Donna was very helpful with that. I had to fire a client yesterday. I mean, on the spot, I was just so, I'm not using the F word right now, but that's what I was, tired. And Stacy was so nice I put it into the group, and I got so many responses and so much support there that I just, whatever Stacy sent me, I put in the resignation letter, sent that to her, done. And but here's the thing, even though I felt relieved after getting rid of that client, because it was one of these clients where I started shaking just thinking about them. And so that was a relief. But then I felt bad because I just put my foot down. That was my boundary, and I'm done with this now. And there is still that bad feeling there. Did I overreact? Should I have given them one more chance? And that is the pep talk in my brain about that. Feels really bad.
I think I'm going to call out what Jane posted in the chat earlier. One of my favorite sayings is stress is what happens when your gut says no and your mouth says, yes, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Listening to your gut and establishing boundaries means
Probably
less
that.
stress.
Yeah.
We see it time and time and time again. Carl is putting boundaries into play, and it's treating him right. So, our topic today is all about postseason communication. Apparently, most of the postseason communication is termination letters, which is not the twist and turn that I expected to see, but I love seeing it because terminations with clients who are not, we'll go with the Marie Kondoism, bringing you joy, or stressing you out during season, it's a must. Just like the rest of the year, when a client steps outside that boundary and doesn't do the right thing, you've got to communicate with them, and you've got to communicate with them about why it's not working. And Donna just added, let it go.
No, she said, let it go, let it go.
I try. I'm trying hard. There was another thing that came up for me, and I discussed that with people who are not accountants before. So I do have an accounting business that runs very well. I have 6 people on staff, and I'm very, very grateful for them. They keep everything going while I'm just diving into my tax season. But I also noticed there are always a few that I cannot pass on, that I have to deal with myself. And I had that feeling that I was neglecting them, especially with me pushing that deadline.
Yeah.
I was neglecting my accounting clients, and that felt really bad.
I know that a lot
And
of
I don't have a solution for that.
Well, I know that a lot of people who have both sides of the house, both sides of the equation, where they have bookkeeping in-house and then also taxes, suffer from that same thing. I think it is a matter of, one solution would be to seasonally staff up to help cover and I will say that one consistent thing that I have heard time and time and time again from talking to tax preparers is the value of an admin, especially an admin. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of yeses and nods on that, but the value of an admin, exactly. Anything that is administrative should be given to that. Data entry, communication, sometimes setting appointments.
Right. And I've been thinking about that, but how do you train them, especially when it comes to taxes? That is a special skill that they have to have. They need to know what I'm looking for, what they have to ask for otherwise I can do it myself.
Well, we could do a whole 10 hours on how to train them. Absolutely. But you absolutely can. It's not it's not such a specialized skill that trained admins couldn't come in and do it. You do have to give them some upfront training. I always suggest when somebody is looking to do that, not waiting until February 1. Bringing the admin in, Leah, at, in December.
January 1st.
Yeah, we're in that time frame where you
Yeah, I understand.
where you have the time to give them that training that is needed for your specificity.
Two things I want to throw in as advice on this is Loom videos. Is make them short, make them very short and bite-sized. Send them in the moment, and have building a library and repository using the tags so they can find them quickly. And then second is I use Google Workspace. So when I send an email and I'm trying to get my admin Rachel to find my voice, I want her to be doing first pass on these emails and putting a draft in there. She can save half my mental energy if she'll type something out and I can tweak it. The ones where I feel like I really captured something that I want her to know to use in the future, I tag her on those, and there's a tag in my email so she can go and look at particularly the difficult emails I've had to send where I took some time here and there's a voice. I want her to find that voice so my clients think it's me responding when it's her. So
That makes sense.
I'm gonna also throw out there, Leah, you called out CPA Pilot. CPA Pilot is amazing at writing emails. One of the things that I love about it is you can put your tone right in. Hey, I want to have a stern, professional, and somewhat sarcastic response here, and it will adapt to that. So it's really good. If you haven't tried writing emails with that.
I have not. I just had it do the research and then I just copy and paste and send it to the client. And it's,
There you go. You know what? Do the research and then say, now turn this into an email. That's all you have to do.
I have to figure that out. Yeah.
Fascinating, because it will turn it into layman terms. So that, because the responses are typically going to be the technical breakdown with all the source docs, etc. You can then just turn around and say, now make this layman terms so that I can send it to my client. It works amazingly well that way. It really does.
I have to look. I will look at that.
Yeah.
Between the two seasons. Yeah.
So real quickly, I'd like to take a moment to bring Tanya back in with this as well with, on your process of, as you're bringing somebody into a team, let's say you decide you want to bring somebody in, and what are like your top 3 tips of how to help get somebody trained up into a position or taking the notes or getting the stuff out of your brain over to them? Because I mean, I've seen some of this stuff, but what would you say are your top 3? And I'm hoping it might give other people some ideas of tips to share as well.
Absolutely. I am a big believer in not doing things more than once. So I usually throw on, and there's other ways that you can do this free. We've got other tools, but Loom, as was already spoken, Otter AI at the same time has a free version, Otter. So if you take Otter and Loom and do a screen share and speak slowly, because I'll tell you there's certain things like QBO comes out, the word QBO, CUBIO, don't know what it means. So speak slowly and enunciate and say, step 1, look for this. Step 2, look for that. There's also Scribe How. I think it's Scribe How or Describe. Yeah, that I've heard is amazing.
It's Scribe, but the website is Scribe How.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. So I missed the deal on that. So again, but if you're looking for the free versions, free version of Loom, free version of Otter, and now you've just created, within doing it once yourself, probably at about half speed, you've created a flow that now other people can turn around and follow with that. You don't need to take somebody and train them to do taxes. I was the only one that did the taxes, but my team were trained on intake. So I had a form that they would take and they would look, how many T4s, W2s, how many 1099s, like, again, to use the US verbiage, how many of this, the main things, again, that they're looking for in the personal side of things, so that I can quickly glance they would do a compare the same sheet to the last year. We're usually expecting 2 of something, and now there's only 1 of something, or they're expecting something and there's not. Again, they can then go in before it gets to me and say, hey, we've got a difference here. Has their address changed, their email changed, their number of children changed? So there's certain things that they can look on. And if you've just got an intake sheet, you can easily compare back and forth, and that cuts down the time so that when it comes to me, I just got to go through, bang, review what they've got in there, and 9 times out of 10, I can easily process without any further questions, and then give the client a call back. So what I also did is my admin people, if the refund or amount owing was similar to what it's always been, I didn't get involved. The team called back, the team took care of that. I could focus on it. If there was a bigger difference, maybe a bigger refund than usual, and I'm like, I need to talk to them about this, or again, a larger amount owing, I would get involved in those conversations.
One of the things I really liked about what you were saying, so many people, when we try to hire an admin, one of the fatal flaws is when you bring an admin on, but you then try to train them to take over all of the nightmare stuff that you don't want to do. I think one of the best tips is you hire an admin to be the best dang admin they can possibly be. Hire an accounting support person or a tax support person for that other role, but don't just dump all of your mess that's driving you crazy onto them and then expect them to be able to handle it better. Find out the tasks that are best.
Matthew, it's one of the best pieces of advice. When I work with clients one-on-one, that's one of the fatal mistakes that most accounting business owners do, is they turn every single human in the office, regardless of what their function is at tax time, into a tax person of some kind. Admins should stay admins. Yes, if they've got the skill, it's great. But let's be honest, we've all seen the stories in the bookkeeping world where they make the receptionist the bookkeeper, right? And what happens?
The phones don't get answered.
The phones don't get answered. We get a clean up later because they're not professionally trained to do that work. So put the right people in the right positions is really one of the best strategies out there for maintaining sanity and getting all the work done. When just think about it. If you were you're a tax preparer, and suddenly your boss, if you don't work for yourself, says, hey, I'd like you to come put up some drywall, you'd be lost. It's not in your wheelhouse. Well, Matthew, you might not be lost. I know I would be.
It would be lost, but it wouldn't be done right. It'd be like, so.
It is kind of being lost, because I have feeling I have 2 different brains working during tax season. One is accounting, the other one is taxes, and they don't sync.
Yeah.
So
only during tax season? I mean, your regiment's doing pretty good there. Donna, you got your hand raised, and I have a feeling you're going to say there's an app for that, right? If I saw the comment.
There's a lot of apps for that.
Exactly.
Apps can solve everything. But actually, what I was going to say was, like, when you look to hire someone, and this is in all businesses that I've worked in, you need to give them a path to be successful with you.
Yes.
It's different for a path for success. It's a path to be successful with you.
And then
give them clear expectations.
That includes knowing the nuances. Like, don't talk to me until I've had my first cup of coffee.
Yep.
Don't come at me in the morning and say, do you have 5 minutes, and turn it into an hour. Those are the things that will inevitably kill that scenario for me. I like to know yeah, of course, people are going to need to meet with you, and your team is going to need to talk to you, and you're going to need to have regular meetings to get things done. And there's going to be the offhanded stuff, but don't bother me if I'm in a heads down moment. And I'm sure that's the same for you and for everybody out there. You could not have been more correct. Knowing how to be successful with the person that you're working with is a great way to put it.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to add was, give them a path, write it down, stay on the path with them. Don't make up things in the middle of it. It's going to confuse them. They're going to get frustrated and they're going to want to leave. They're going to go look for something else.
Good
And
point.
they'll easily find something else if they're worth anything. I see it happen all the time. So yeah, give them and be prepared to train.
Yeah.
A lot of people bring on people, whether it's admin, tax person, whatever you're going to bring on, they're not prepared to train them. The first question they're asking them is how good they are at QuickBooks. That's not the question they should be asking them. It's because it doesn't matter. In fact, when I think about hiring people, it happens every once in a while. The question I'm going to ask, and I want to see, is like what's their aptitude? What's their attitude? I want to see what they're like. I don't care how they get at QuickBooks because I'm going to teach them my way, not someone else's way, not the QuickBooks way. I want them to follow my workflows. And if I have to untrain them and then retrain into my way, that's going to take longer and it might not be possible with some people. So I'm looking for attitude, aptitude, the way they talk to me, the way they present themselves, so I can give them that clear path and then train them up.
I also look for the ability to take the next step. Like just because I said do this, then this, then this, can they glean from that what the next thing is? I like that. I like I like for people to be able to think on their feet.
Well, like Tanya said, you can train on skill and knowledge. You can't train on personality and work ethic. Now, real quickly, also in Facebook, we've got Audrey Walker Blackburn. Audrey's amazing. Just so you guys know, when you're sharing all everything here, she's all, this is a great session. Already got 2 great things to try out. So thank you everybody for that. That's why we try to do this stuff, is to bounce things back and forth. When I look back with Parkway and my assistant, Mary, probably one of the, not probably, like one of the maybe 2 of, if I had to say top 3 employees, the question is she like number 1? Yeah, she probably is, of all my best hires ever. I remember her working with for a bit of time, and she was referred to us by somebody else as to being just an admin. And we started to make that fatal mistake of trying to push more QuickBooks and everything else onto her. And she came to me and said, like, look, I recognize this accounting stuff is not what I want to do. What I really want to do is this instead. And we had a pretty frank conversation about it. And I said, okay, awesome. Thank you for letting me know. And I said, you do really like, what part of it is with the accounting you don't like? And I said, because if you've noticed, there's ways to be in accounting and not have to do much accounting. There's other ways to like still get paid for doing that stuff. But what are your bigger goals? What are your ultimate long-term goals for yourself? And she had the desire to get into the mortgage industry. So, and we had, we talked about it through the whole thing. And I asked her, I said, we love you. We want to keep you here. But my goal, I firmly always believe, is to make sure that you leave us a better person than when you first came to us. Because realistically, any employee you hire, less than 1% chance they're going to be with you through the entire remainder of your business and your career, everything else, right? So if you know that, make sure that the person leaves you a better person, more knowledge moving forward, and you'll always do right by them. Mary now works for Seth David with Nerd Enterprise, which is amazing. And I'm more excited to tell you she's in mortgage. She's actually working in getting close to possibly closing a couple of her first deals. So that progression happened, and we're still great friends. And I love seeing the evolution of Mary over time. Hi, Mary, if you can see this.
One of the things that we talk about a lot in different roundtables is that when people get afraid to train, because seriously, they get afraid to train because they're not going to be with me forever. They're going to take my knowledge and bring it to their own firm, bring it to somebody else's firm. Stop that. We gotta think about, in the moment, getting the most and the best out of the people that we work with. So what if they go off somewhere else? Every one of you worked somewhere else and got those skills somewhere else. It's very infrequent that we see somebody who started a business at 17 and they're still working that business at 45. So think about just doing the best job with that person while you have them. And here's the other way to look at it. What Matthew said is absolutely perfect. You're getting a referral partner. You're getting somebody that you can reach out to at other times. And that's the beauty.
It also came in really handy when I needed to get the new lease set up for the commercial properties for my parents. Is like, hey, Mary, can you give me a copy of that bad boy so I can turn it into a form? So, you never know what'll happen from it, of course, but yes.
Yep. Carl said it best. Abundance, not scarcity. Thank you, Carl. That's a perfect ad.
All right. So we're getting a little closer to our time, and I've been wanting to ask this question. I meant to set this up as a poll before, but then people don't talk through it. What's your favorite method, your favorite method of communication? How do you guys want your clients to communicate to you?
All right, well, I'll jump in if that's
Go
okay.
for it.
I will not work with a client who is not willing to use my app. We use Client Hub. Doesn't matter what app you're looking at using. I like that type of app because there's a secure portal, and then they can feel comfortable to use back and forth. They can use it from the computer and the phone. I kind of blocked myself into that. I can't change this with my clients because I'd had enough of email. There were emails that went missing that I didn't get that actually caused confusion and clients to be late with information every time Microsoft goes and changes something, but Microsoft blamed me, but wasn't me because it got quarantined automatically and I didn't change the rules. And of course, there's cybersecurity issues out there, and cyber crime is second these days beyond human trafficking. So I am very strict on that. And if my clients aren't that feeling as well, we won't. So we use, again, Client Hubs just happens to be the one, but it's secure. And I'm not willing to bend on that. So we email with them, we whatever, until they become, then that's their text, it's their email, it's their phone, it's everything all in one type of thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's Carl's got something great, of course, and then I have to explain Brandon's in a second. So Carl said, emailing or scheduling an appointment on my scheduler. Man, I fought doing that for some reason for so long. The best thing I ever did is actually get my Calendly set up. I don't know why. It was actually because I was using Acuity with a business partner and it just was dirty and it didn't work well. But now it's phenomenal. It saves me so much time. So completely agree with that one.
Yes.
Smoke signals. Brandon, love you to death, buddy. It's an inside joke because he'll always be like, what's the best way to get hold of you, man? I've got like 5 different phone numbers for you, 10 different emails, try to connect you here and there. He's like, what's the best way? Do I have to send with smoke signals? So yeah, smoke signals usually work, or pigeon carrier is a secondary for me. Who else?
And I only use client-facing communication only goes through the CO. They actually started tax organizers to provide tax organizers for us that I send out right through there. So I have everything in one place. I can pull in my emails because some clients are simply not getting it. And I started, and I'm telling them, if I see an email from you, it's going to be deleted right there without me opening it. And that's what I use for these guys. And I do not answer my phone. I call back if I'm in the mood. And texts I ignore. And with stuff I use Financial Sense.
Nice.
And Calendly for scheduling, but I block my time only to 15-minute slots on 2 days a week for requests. I mean, I have to stay open a little bit, but the rest is blocked.
We got a lot of Licio love going in the comments just to share that part. Donna, what you got your hand raised? What are you what's your preferred method?
So I adopted this method almost 10 years ago. Slack workspaces for all my clients. And then Zoom. Zoom is with Calendly links so they can schedule their own calls. I never have to worry about it. They get a link. It's in their Slack workspaces. They can schedule their monthly reviews. There's no phone calls. There's no texts. There's no emails ever. If they do any of that, they already know. So they're not going to get a response. I deal with that way back in the sales process. The other thing that I use too, but it's fairly uncommon in the bookkeeping world, is I have a lot of clients that use Discord. So
Oh,
I do
yeah.
a lot of stuff on Discord. Because I have a lot of influencers and gamers and YouTubers. So they are in the Discord world. So I'm over in the Discord world a lot.
We should connect on that. I'd like to know a little bit more about that afterwards for sure, because I've heard there's some great channels on there as well, also in Discord.
There's some great
wonderful
communities on
channels.
Discord. Donna actually got me into the Discord world myself.
Well, Richard, real quickly before you go away from that, I'd like you to explain how you use Disco to communicate with everybody that you put in the chat there.
Licio, I really do like Disco, Licio.
Okay. Sorry.
And I think they need to do a marketing campaign now around that autocorrect. But no, Licio is wonderful. It is the thing about Licio is it does allow you to have your whole team to have full insight into the communications across the team. You know, Donna mentioned something very important about communication. No texts. Texts are probably the worst way. And I still see people falling into that text world because you've called them with your cell phone. And then they feel like it's great to text back. There's a few people in my world that I will text with, but there are many more that I have a little snippet that is like, hey, I don't receive texts on this phone. I do, but I'm not going to take work texts on that phone. I want all work communication. I'm very much like Tanya. I have to have all my communications in one place or it doesn't work for me. How many of you consolidate your communications into one place? Everybody, show of hands? Is that
Trying to.
Why you're trying to?
I'm getting better with it, but I'm trying to. It's not.
You're kind of in a lot of places. You have Messenger is one of the better places to catch you.
And then I got friends that make me go into Slack, and I got other friends that make me go into Teams, and other friends
go into Slack. I know, and yet you still email me, even though you know. But that's okay. I will make exceptions here and there. No, actually, at the beginning of my business, one of the things when I was onboarding is I always asked what the preferred method of communication was for my clients. And then I realized I was in 50 different communication channels. It was rough. That's what brought me to the consolidation moment. When I consolidated, I can talk to everybody now. I'll admit, sometimes I get behind. I was out for a week dealing with some personal business and a funeral. And I feel like I'm 6 weeks behind on messages because everybody messaged and because it was the middle of tax season. So lots and lots of bookkeepers that I work with were reaching out for many, many different reasons. So yeah, sometimes it can backfire on you, but for the most part, 99.9% of the time, I love having consolidated communications in one place. It works.
And if I can just add to that, as long as you're upfront and transparent with the client, then you can make that decision ahead of time. So when we have our quick call with the client, just like we only use QBO, I say, you know what, if you decide once you become a client, we move communication over here. This is how you do it. Are you okay with that? Then when the questionnaire goes out, that's also on the questionnaire. So if they're not okay with that, that's okay. They're a good fit for somebody else.
You know what I do is I actually do include it in my engagement letter. And I say, this is the last email that you'll get from me. It's also the last email your response in signature is the last email I expect to get from you. And then that sets the stage when I'm onboarding to walk through, because there are a few people still out there that don't know Slack, but I walk through how it can do everything that email does. Or what about attachments? Well, right here, here's how you do it. I walk them through, and it's about a 5-minute thing. I'm actually going to do a Loom video on it because I don't want to have that conversation anymore. And get people acclimated to it right up front. And Matthew, you will be the first recipient of that Slack Loom. I'm just going to say it. Matthew has been giving me hell about Slack for quite a few years, actually.
I only have Slack for you, Richard.
I just paid for Slack yesterday, like for the business. I just upgraded yesterday. So now I'm like ready. I need somebody to teach me how to actually use Slack appropriately and get everything set up correctly. I truly do. I've been a Teams person forever. And I'm being converted. My arm is not twisted. It's like,
this is my wheelhouse.
So
a whole one topic on getting it set up properly just 2-3 weeks ago. We'll definitely connect on this, Matthew.
So the point of this whole thing has been for client communications, make sure to let everybody else tell you how you should communicate. No, just kidding. Donna, what did you want to add on?
Couple of things on there is one, all of these that I talked about that I use are Slack, Zoom, Calendly, all phone apps. I can run this from my phone, and I have very specific systems and processes for each app that I use. And I also have very specific systems and processes and training for my clients on how they'll use all these apps.
Yeah.
I show them how to do it on their phone. We have an emoji language. We have all these things, and I train them how to do it. So the very first call we have in the kickoff call is about a 5-minute training of like how to use Slack, how to use Zoom if they don't know how to use Zoom. And I still find people that don't know how to use Zoom, how to use the Calendly link. Where it's posted in Slack, it all runs together. It's all a system. I show them how to do everything. Then I retrain as necessary. Because I will have to retrain. I know it already that someone will send me an email or someone will do that. And I retrain as necessary and I reinforce, and I'm consistent and persistent. And that's the key, is you keep going. And then you update as needed. But really, the only thing I ever really update is if the actual software makes me update something and the emoji language gets updated every so often as I discover new fun things to do. That's about it.
Thank you, Donna. Matthew, I'd like to call out something from about 30 messages ago in the chat that I just saw. Leah said she's looking for an app that shares banking codes. Clerk.chat. Don't look any further. Clerk.chat.
I keep meaning to do a video on that one to check it out myself.
It sends your codes into a Slack channel or to a Teams channel. And I think it will also do Discord. So clerk.chat, there's nothing better. And it works with all of the codes. So there's many.
The VoIP issue is what you're getting.
You don't have the VoIP issue with them. So it's fantastic. And then she also said looking for something to pull in. I'm sorry, it scrolled away.
It was for statements and such. And that's where, so for those of you who may be familiar, I've been using LedgerSync for a super long time, but I actually work with them more directly and been consulting with them as they've been rebuilding out their product and bringing on new features. I can tell you personally that their fetching capability is dramatically improved for getting statements and building out new banks all the time for the check and deposit image stuff. I've always said I would wait to start talking about it publicly until I felt it was back up to a level where it was like good. I'm very impressed with the improvements that have been happening there. So anybody wants to know about that stuff, feel free to reach out and I can show you that, of course, anytime if you'd like. So
Matthew, I would like to add just one quick thing but before we're done today. The theme today was client communications. There was also a lot of just postseason stress relief where people were talking about stories and what we'll never do again. But to just put a nice little bow on communications, I think it's about just making sure you are communicating. There are so many different ways to communicate, but what we do see after tax season in so many firms is people not communicating. Tax preparers not communicating with the bookkeepers until it's the crunch time. Bookkeepers not communicating with tax preparers until it's their crunch time. And communicate all the way around with the people that are on the financial team and your clients.
Yeah.
You know what? When was the last time you just checked in on a client just because? Think about how that would make you feel. I love it when I get a call from a vendor for absolutely no reason. Now,
just to say hi.
They need to schedule it, or because, and this is my favorite tip to bookkeepers, catch them doing something right. Your
Yes.
sales have been on a trajectory of 20% growth per month. I just wanted to call and say, nice job. Think about what that does. That takes away the sting of the 400 times you've had to call to get a bank statement. It makes that go away. Instead of you being, oh, I've got to answer the call from the accountant. She's going to ask me for my bank statement again. Think about the difference it would be if you called to just say, I noticed something amazing.
So let's go to Donna for final quick comments here, and then yeah, what else would you like to
So
share?
on the tone of making your clients feel like they're appreciated, you have their back all the time. It's not always about the numbers. It's not always about their
Amen.
statements. It's not always about their P&L. If you notice a client and they'll tell me all these times doing new packaging. I have a client that did new packaging on a brand that's in Whole Foods. They're in New York. I'm in California. I saw their packaging at a Whole Foods in California.
How cool is
I
that?
snapped a picture. I dropped it in Slack on my phone and said, hey, this looks awesome on this shelf. It had great placement. Do that for your clients. I do that all the time. Whenever I'm out, I see their stuff or I'll check out their websites. I know what my clients do. We have valuable conversations on what they're doing because we can look at the numbers. The numbers are the numbers and we set a path and all that stuff. Learn what they're doing.
Yeah.
Be with them. Take that long walk with them all the time. And then you can see their stuff around and you see their websites and you see all the stuff. And there's only one person I have that puts stuff in stores. But I look at their websites and I'll snap screenshots. Hey, this looks neat. Hey, this is new.
I love it.
So yeah, the money conversation that happens during the monthly call, but it's the stuff, it's their baby. These things are their baby, just like our businesses are our baby. And I love what I do every day. They wake up and love what they do every day. So make them feel good about it.
One of my favorite things is actually even connecting clients to clients. I get no greater joy than when I see my clients' names in other clients' books because they're buying from each other. That just makes me super happy and super excited. So before we end here, I want to real quickly, a couple quick shout outs. First, Tanya, thank you for joining us. I've recently been very fortunate to go through her bookkeepers boot camp, and it's initially Canadian based, but I can tell you, even just as a person, I've had my own firm for 10 years and restructuring it. You'd be amazed how much you still learn going through this whole process, and you're reminded in the tweaks I've been making to improve my process. So it was absolutely worth every bit of the time and energy and effort put into it, plus much more. So thank you so much for that. I also, for Forwardly, guys, I'm a big believer that when you talk about apps and you're promoting apps, you should actually be trying to use the app itself, not just being a mouthpiece and just saying stuff. And with Forwardly, they've been extremely helpful for me as I've set up my brand new corporation. It took me time because I was out of town to finally get it set up and get my new Forwardly account set up. And I'm excited to actually be able to start using that with all of my vendors. And I just wanted to say that because, again, Forwardly, thank you for doing it. This is an app I use and do believe in. I'm going to put one last little link in the resources, which is to we did this thing, Love at First demo. If you guys want to click it, it'll open a different thing. It'll show you 5 different apps that we work with as part of Not the Only App Roundtable, which is where I first learned about some of these things. It was a fun little goofball way to show some of these things, talk about CPA Pilot, everything else. So thank you for those people. Forwardly, thanks for sponsoring this. Richard, anything you'd like to add on as well?
I hope everybody has a great weekend and that nobody is working on taxes this weekend.
Yep.
Hope you enjoy it. You deserve the downtime. So
next month, we actually have Alicia Katz-Pollock will be joining us. We will be promoting that in the next couple of weeks here on purpose. We don't link these on, we don't make you sign up to every single one, but we'd love to have you join us, of course, for the next one. We hope this new platform was a little bit more engaging, and we'd love to hear your feedback from that. But most important, here's wishing you all a very successful week. Bye, guys.